There you go.
Welcome back to the not televised revolution. We are nymphomaniacs for deep thought. You should try it. You'll like it.
Just the tip, though. Just the tip.
Yeah, I suppose that you can get the tip from the mainstream media, but you're going to get the whole shaft at the not televised revolution.
So,
We got heavy stuff to talk.
it's what,
Go ahead.
day 5, and we're all still alive, and nobody's drafted.
Yeah, I don't think the draft is going to happen. I think that they're trying to scare us. Um, so it's awkward. Thank you, Bob Bobson, for engineering today. Like, I feel like I'm not even the host because I'm not engineering. Um, we're trying to talk about the conflict with Iran, of course.
Oh,
No, I don't think anyone's getting drafted. I think they're trying to just scare us all. Like, like everything else with the Trump presidency, they're just being
overly dramatic. I, I, I can say that like that. I mean,
what I was going to say.
I don't think it's today, but that very well could have been the shot that hurt around the world, man. I'm not that and I stand by that statement. I freaking we are really pushing the buttons of everybody all at once. We just are. And I mean, even our allies are kind of backing away from our foreign policy. And I mean, that might change if we get like a Biden in office or something like that. But I don't see that happening really. And no matter how that works out, I don't necessarily, unless Trump does some dumb shit like this. This is
Right. What I was
I
trying to say at the top is he wants to be abnormal on purpose. He wants to do everything that someone like Obama would never do, and he thinks that's what makes him so great.
I I'm not so sure that I mean Obama would totally do something like this. I don't necessarily see this as all that big of a change of policy. The only thing is that it's more blatant. I mean, it's like a bull in a china shop. He's sort of just I don't know.
Unconventional. That was
Un,
gonna bother me the
yeah.
whole
I
time.
mean, it's definitely more open and a lot more blatant. But I
Yeah.
don't necessarily see it as all that big of a change.
So, pull up some news on your screen so that
Okay,
we make it clear to
but
everyone.
there is I would like to say before I pull up any news because there is one angle that I don't really hear being considered. The two people I could see like Trump feeling that he is going to gain something politically from doing this. Now I'm not sure what he's thinking about that. Like I could totally
He is a septarian that played with a fire truck.
yeah, I really don't I don't see I mean his base, of course, are all fired up, but we already knew, but they were already all fired up, so there's no real gain politically from there. And I'm
No,
not really seeing, I'm just not, I'm not seeing any sort of gain. He's just sort of,
I can't get that picture of Trump playing with a real life fire truck out of my head.
yeah, yeah, or, you're right. But,
Let's try to do some news.
but I do feel that he feels that he's gaining something politically from doing this. And I also feel, and I think, and in this particular case, I think he's right. Netanyahu is also gaining something politically from this taking place, and those two things happening, converging at the same time, because Netanyahu's in trouble in his country and Trump is in trouble in his country, and they both actually feel like they're going to gain something politically. In the case of Netanyahu, it's actually true. In the case of Trump,
I wanted to
I
make
don't think it
sure
is.
that near the top of the show that I would have to say that one of the hardest things about following the news in the Middle East is attempting to understand and remember all these names and words you've never heard before. So
The Prime Minister of
Netanyahu
Israel,
is yes,
the Prime Minister of Israel, and frickin' yeah, Bibi.
yes.
Yes, he's the.
So let's try to tag it as we go on
Okay, yeah, I concede
because
that,
that's
but I do think that that Israel's prime minister, because he's in trouble right now for corruption in his own country, as well as Trump being in trouble at the same time that this conference for peace was being called in Iraq,
yeah.
and Soleimani was assassinated while he was attending it. That's a pretty blatant
Hmm.
fuck you. And I really don't. I mean, Iran says that they're backing down and da 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 da, but I don't see a world in which that's actually true. Iran, you know, um, they weren't wrong about this guy, and I know a lot of people, particularly
Okay.
about Soleimani. They aren't wrong about this guy. The guy was a very dangerous individual. Now, I don't believe that he was
To who?
particularly dangerous to the United States, although we kept provoking Iran, so therefore he was kind of dangerous to the United States. But Soleimani, I think, frickin' was a very dangerous individual, and I think that that is particularly true. The thing about it is that Soleimani's organization doesn't go away just because he did. Particularly considering the state of Iran is that organization. I mean, it's a little. This is like if somebody killed the director of our CIA. This is kind of what happened, and yeah, he might be. It might stop them a little bit, but Iran has quite a bit of asymmetric power in the region, and because of the fact that we're all over that region, we're in. I, I don't think this is over by any means, even though both sides are saying it is. This ain't over at all, and we're gonna bleed for this. A lot of people are gonna bleed for this. It's gonna happen. I think it's already taking place. Special forces freaking units are already mobilizing to do all kinds of stuff behind our back that we don't even know about. And
I
and
didn't think we were going to get this far this quick.
but
Let's
true
try to
story. Sorry.
help people understand how it started in the first place.
Well, so I mean, in the first place, the long and the short of it is they have a lot of oil, and they weren't really willing to sell it only in dollars. Saudi Arabia was. So we really like Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia had a regional rival in Iran because Iran's a really powerful old country, older than Saudi Arabia, older than the United States by far, older than most European countries by a long
I
time
thought
as
you
well.
said just the tip, by the way.
Well, either way,
I want the whole shaft, man.
either way, they weren't really willing to play ball because they um, they were looking at it a different way. They were socializing a lot of their utilities. They were changing a lot of their economy around to work for the people in a lot of ways.
All right.
This was back. This
Those
was back
dirty
in the.
communists, we gotta go kill them all. That's
Uh,
socialist government.
and that's not particularly true. They were basically doing the exact same thing that Aramco is doing. They just weren't doing it in dollars. And because of the fact that they weren't doing it in dollars and that they were willing to sell to pretty much anybody because they were actually capitalists and they the
And they
United
did like
States
Bitcoin and stuff like
the
that.
United States during Cold War climate had a serious problem with them trading with Russia, which I mean, there's an argument to be said, but to say that this shit has to continue fucking 30 years later, really, for real? Like, this problem started from the Cold War. That's over. you know? Are we not done with that? Did we not stop it? Did we not win?
No, apparently not.
Apparently not. But either way, that's where that problem started. So back in the 50s, we the CIA toppled the government that was attempting to do that. Toppled the democratically elected government that existed there, that was seizing their own oil fields back and trying to sell to anybody that wanted to pay. Blah 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 blah. Just sort of. Didn't really give a shit about who it was and trying to do
And then
things that were
America
good for
comes
their
along
people,
with our
and then it,
military and says, no, it all
and
belongs
then
to
and then the CIA comes along and tries to topple their government, and they put incredibly a really
authoritative.
really 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 bad authoritarian
Yeah.
oppressive regime in place in Iran, and that regime, of course, privatizes all of their oil fields and so on and so forth, and America is all over it, just like they were in Saudi or in South America, and Ford was all over it, and blah blah blah
I
blah
want to
blah.
take a quick aside. I want to take a quick aside
So the
because, like,
Revolutionary Guard was from the revolution from that government, the government that the United States was backing, that was killing the Iranian people, and then the Ayatollah was put into place. That theocracy was put into place as a revolution against American influence in Iran, and that's really where the problem comes from.
um, okay, this is a great segue for the biggest question that I have for you and for the listeners. Um, it's really confusing to follow what's going on in the Middle East, especially when you hear names of countries you've never heard of before, names of people you've never heard before.
They
You hear language spoken you've never heard before. It just gets so confusing.
it
Like domestic politics are not confusing already. Like I try. Look, I'm the not televised revolution, and I try, but like I can only
well,
laugh about it.
so yeah, I know the story of Iran is particularly convoluted.
Yeah,
There was a government that was there,
I can't afford the word.
that was secular and democratic, and it was elected, and then it was doing things that the United States didn't like, so the CIA stepped in and took it down, and
That's
they
what.
put a dictator in that fucked those people up for about 10 years. Those people got really pissed off, and they turned to religious fundamentalism to overthrow that really oppressive government. When they overthrew oppressive government, they created the Ayatollah office, which is the supreme leader of Iran. This guy was like second in command. He was like the leader of the CIA in essence,
Wow.
and so he was assassinated, frickin' and just the other day. But as I said, when Iran has their own problems with us, and they have legitimate problems with us and they have for quite some time. That said, it seems that we are the ones that keep stoking this fire, from my perspective.
Yeah.
And if we just left them the fuck alone, maybe just maybe they would stop killing us because they don't
Well,
seem
but
to be
that would
killing us here.
right.
I mean, they were one of our greatest enemies against Al Qaeda,
Yeah.
actually.
If we leave them
And
alone, how are we gonna make more profit for Raytheon and Boeing, and etc.?
I
I just kind of got depressed just then.
I know, but I get. I mean, and the crazy part about it is, for the economics dude in me says there's an argument to that. I mean, it might not be very productive or good or anything like that, but at least a couple of people got high paying jobs making fucking bombs, but they actually don't because a lot of that's being done in prison labor nowadays.
All right. So let's go on
These are
to
the
like
jokes.
what might happen next. 'Cause I think we're about the 20-minute mark. Iran does control, I believe it's called the Bering Strait.
It's not the Bering Strait. It's the Strait of Oman,
Yeah.
and that is one third of the world's oil goes through there. All they really have to
Yep.
do is mine it, and it's instant depression for everyone.
Yeah. If they stop ships from going by their coastline, a third of the world's oil is
Stops
not
moving.
being delivered.
Period. That's like instant world depression, just like that, overnight.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about
I,
sanctions. Talk about sanctions.
like they they really can they really can hurt us, and not only that. I mean, Iran and Iraq, but Iran in particular, the state of Iran, that particular structure, whether there's been several dynasties and so on and so forth, but that actual state, that particular state has been around for about 5,000 years, since the time of Greece. Hasn't gone away.
And we've
Pretty
been
much the
around how
same.
long? Since like
200, 200 and 300
1776.
years.
Yeah.
W-
Like 230, I think.
And for some
Bogus.
fucking reason, we don't learn our lesson. Every
We're
fuck every
we're
20
we're
years or so,
kids.
we're
We're
trying to fight
powerful
another.
children, just like our president.
We're every time we, like I think it was
Ooh, that
Churchill that
was
said, "Never fight a land war in Asia."
yeah.
We keep losing them. Like the anybody thinks this one's gonna be different. Like if we keep fighting them in all over Asia, Vietnam, Korea, uh, um, uh, uh, Afghanistan, Iraq. Now we're going into Iran, Syria. We've lost every fucking one of them, dude, and we're not getting anywhere with it, and we're just doing it. Like,
My engineer. This time you're engineering the show. Can you put up protests? Can you
I've
put up
been doing
pictures
that.
of
I've
protests?
actually been doing
Okay.
that the whole time.
Uh,
Although I kind of got distracted and I haven't been scrolling.
I know
But
how hard it is because I've done most of those shows. It's hard.
I've got pictures. Yeah, I've been doing that the whole
It's a
time.
lot more fun to just hang out and talk, and like that's what I think people like about our show. Like we tell the truth, we have a little bit of fun, and then tell the truth, and then tell the truth, and then maybe tell you something you didn't know.
Well,
Um,
uh,
so what about the future?
I think that to we are going to see some blowback from this. I mean, it's
Oh
already
yeah,
happened. I mean, aside from
oh yeah.
that little missile strike that everybody's saying is fine and okay, I get it, I understand, and Trump is like kind of back down on that, and I think he realizes that he made a mistake because I can't imagine that. I mean, he's kind of dumb, but he's not dumb. I mean, he's not really the sharpest knife in the board, but at the same time, I mean, he did take down two political dynasties in a year, big ones, the Bush and the Clintons. So, I mean, the guy's got a little bit of cunning to him, and I think he really does understand that he fucked up. And I don't think that there's any other way to put it. he doesn't really have the backing of. I mean, he has the backing of a pretty good plurality of the country, but not a majority. And I don't think he. I
You
think,
really think he has? No, I disagree. I think maybe a third of the country is like, Trump should kill Iran. Like,
and
that much.
that third represents is exactly what I'm talking about. One third of the country wants Trump to kill the Iranians, and we should turn that whole desert to glass. Blah blah blah. Yeah, that third represents a really large voting
Man,
bloc.
you just gave me the countdown.
A third of the country is united on one issue. Think about that for a second. Like,
Dude,
that's don't underestimate that third.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's that a plurality that very easily meets the definition of a plurality. It's not a majority, but it's a big minority.
There you go with the big words again. I can actually afford those, but like that's why that was the whole point of this episode is to try to make it easy to see what is going on.
Well, uh, good luck. I honestly
I
don't
know,
know.
I know, I know. So let's take turns. Let's take turns trying to give our
Yeah,
actual
please,
thoughts.
please tell me what you think, because
You
I
want me to
am
go
at a
first?
loss. Yeah, please go
I'll go
first.
first. I'll go first. So, of course, as I've already said in the episode, Trump is a grown-up child. We saw him playing with a fire truck and really enjoying it. That's a good place to start our investigation, if you ask me. I'm sure he probably actually has toy planes and Iron Man on the presidential desk in the Oval Office. Like he's that kind of person. So he doesn't like understand anything, and we've talked about it a lot in the episode already. But I think that also there's two theories that I heard that I don't really disagree with. One is that Trump just wants to do the exact opposite of Obama about everything, and the other is Trump will just agree with whatever the last person, the typecast general that walks into his office. You know, he looks like he came straight from roll cast. I forget what it's called. Casting. Um,
I
go.
I've heard a few things about these meetings, and like what I mean about these meetings is the meeting in which the decision is made to do something like this between the military leaders and the president. And what I what I've heard is that generally speaking, um, they set out like three options, like what they call a weak option, what they call a moderate option, and what they call a strong option. And what they want you to
You
do,
want a strong option?
well, what they want you to do is to like take the moderate option, and so they kind of set out a window. These are the options that you have before you pick one, and then really they don't allow any sort of debate outside of this, and then of course
Mm.
there's no real questioning. I can kind of see that there's no real questions from this, because as much as Trump tries to play that he's like an enemy of the implied bureaucracy or something like that, every
Can
single
I
time that they
can I
say, hey, let's
simplify
bomb
what you're
something, he
saying?
does it.
Can I simplify what you're saying? Because it's all very confusing. Basically, the CIA has control over regular politicians.
Over the vast majority of them, but this
Yeah,
guy is particularly corruptible.
yeah.
It's true. I mean, he's not any more or less corrupt than any of the rest of them, but he's not, as I said, the sharpest tool in the drawer. I mean, he's not necessarily the dumbest. He's got some cunning to him. I'm not underestimating him at all, but at the same
It's
time,
all show.
for some fucking reason, dude, he he's not suiting his own purposes. He's not suiting the American people's purposes. He's not suiting. He's just doing whatever they want him to do, and they still keep shitting on him for it. And he keeps playing their game. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm like, and for real,
yeah.
I really kind of empathize with this guy. He really
What?
wants to be, yes, he wants to be accepted by the big kids club. He wants to be one of the big
That's it.
kids. He wants to be one of the cool kids, but he's
We
just
solved it.
not one of the
We
cool
solved it.
kids. He's just
We
not.
solved it. I'm telling you.
And none of the cool
Telling you,
kids
we
like
solved it.
him. None of the
Yep.
and so like all of the cool kids, they just keep shitting on him, and he just keeps doing whatever he wants. And I knew one of these guys. There's this guy that I grew up. I used to this
Yep.
when
I'm
when
telling
I
you,
was
he was a
growing up,
grown-up child,
I
and
was
we solved it.
I was sitting there. I was kind of coming down. This is when I was a kid, a long time ago, doing a lot of dope, blah blah blah. I was kind of
I
coming
knew
down, and I
you
was
do.
in a really
I knew
bad
you.
freaking
I knew.
mood. And
I
this,
hope it's good because we're
yes, this is a really good joke. Come on, dude.
go for it. Go for it.
Okay, I was in a really bad mood, and this kid that I knew, I'm not gonna say his name, came up to me and he's like, "Hey, how you doing, man?" Blah 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 blah. And I was in a really bad mood, and I didn't want to hear it from this guy. I just looked at him and I said, "Fuck off, bring me some drugs." So anyway, I keep going about my day in a really bad mood, and about 45 minutes to an hour later, the guy actually comes back with a bunch of drugs. He's like, "I didn't really know what you liked, so I brought a little bit of I brought a little bit of weed, and I also kind of have a little bit of blow for you." So I mean, what and Trump is totally that kid. It didn't help his case. He didn't gain any respect from me or anything because I told him to fuck off and bring me drugs, and he actually did it. I just honestly, I kind of thought that he was just trying too hard or something. I don't know. It was just sort of pathetic, and
Mm.
that's what in my opinion, he's particularly manipulatable because of
Yeah,
that.
you landed that story. Yeah, you landed that.
He's that same kid. He's that guy. He's just trying too hard. He wants to be one of the cool kids. And he's just not.
Well, I think we're about somewhere around our 20
Yeah,
to 30
yeah,
minute
yeah.
mark.
We're pretty close there. So,
Um, Final remarks.
um, yeah, that was my final remark. You freaking give me some damn remarks. You got some time.
Okay, so I want to repeat something I said earlier. It's really hard to follow this story because um we don't speak Arabic. So as soon as we hear an Arabic word, we get all confused. Like, and I want to empathize with people about that, okay? Because like I try. Look, I have a podcast, I have a Facebook group, I have an army of political ideas. I've done over 1,000 interviews, and even I can't understand this. Okay, um,
That's not hard. This doesn't make any sense from any perspective, from any way that you look at it, any way that you hack it. It just doesn't. I don't think anybody really understands this for real, for real. I don't even think Trump understands what he just did. Not
of
really.
course not. The man plays with fire.
It's just, I get it. I understand, but like this guy seemingly
I
popped out of
get what's going
nowhere.
on, but I always get a little dazed and confused when I hear Arabic words because I don't know Arabic.
Yeah, yeah, I yeah, I understand that. Mo- I
It
do.
just throws
It's
me
it,
off all the
it.
time.
Yeah, I understand that. I do. That,
Well,
yeah. Well, either way, keep your friends close and hold on to your peoples and all that shit. And you guys.
the next time you want to go deep with thought.
All right.